So, welcome everybody, bienvenidos al curso de español. This course is a Spanish course created for beginners or novice. In this course, I have been using the information and the structure used in the Spanish courses I'm teaching in NMSU. So I have been trying to transform what I'm using in my face-to-face classes into an online environment. So first of all, I'm gonna show you my home page. So here the students can find some information about me, my email, and even my Skype account. This Skype account is gonna be useful for the students, of course, to ask some questions if they want to ask it personally. And also if in some of the activities I'm gonna be planning during this online course. So they also find here the book they're gonna be using as well as the code they have to enter in the platform My Spanish Lab. So in this course, the students are gonna be working in Canvas, but they are also going to have another platform called My Spanish Lab where they have to be doing the activities before covering the assignments that I'm publishing in Canvas. So here they have some information about the book they're gonna be using, My Spanish Lab, and they have some links to My Spanish Lab and also to the lab hours if they are here in NMSU, as well as some other information regarding speaking activities and also other kind of activities that I'm going to cover in some minutes, and links and resources for conversation. The first thing I want my students to do is a placement exam. I think that's important in every language class. So I want to make sure that the students in my class know nothing or just a little bit about Spanish. So the first thing for them to do is the placement exam. I took the placement exam that we are using in for Spanish language in NMSU. So after introducing the home page, I'm gonna be covering my models. So here I created an introductory model or model A or 0. Here I'm planning to add this guide in all of my model, but I didn't have time. So I think it is important for the students who know what I want, what I expect from them, and also the activities they have to be covering, the goals, of course, then the activities and the assignments. Because as I told you, the first thing they're gonna be doing is working with their books, then going into My Spanish Lab, doing these activities, those assignments, and then the activities that I'm planning for this course in Canvas is everything's about get to know the peers, interaction, reviewing grammar, and working on the extra activities. So each chapter is going to have an activity where the students can interact to each other. It's also going to have a review activity, and it is also going to have a 3C activities. I'm going to show you an example. So in the introductory model, we just have a brief introduction where I want the students to answer those questions. So the name, the place where you come from, your nationality, your major or your studies, and also your birthday, for example. So those are things that they are covering in the chapter A in their books. So I always try to provide the students with an example, at least at the very beginning of the course, since they never took Spanish before. So I want to make it easy for them. That's the first activity here. I'm grading that they contribute to the forum and they also try to ask some questions. The second activity for the introductory model is gonna be the weather in my city. So here I want them to write something in a Word document and then submit it through Canvas. So it's gonna be a really simple task, no more than 4 or 5 sentences. They're gonna be using the book as well here. And as always, I provide an example about the weather in my country, Spain. So, then if we go to the model, I added an activity in this first introductory model that I'm planning to add in all of the models. That is a question forum. So here, the students have the opportunity to interact with their peers, and they have to be covering grammar aspects or vocabulary aspects or even cultural aspects that are difficult for them. So I don't want to be the only one explaining things to them or the book as well as the book. So I want them to be able to explain things to the peers, to other students. So here they're gonna be talking in English the whole time, and the only thing I want them to do is to share their questions and be able to answer to the question of other students. I think that will be a nice option in every single model, because at the beginning I thought about publishing it as a activity for the whole semester, but I don't know what you think, but in my opinion, it will be easier for the students to have this activity in each of the different models. So that's everything about model 0 or A. In model number 1, we're going to cover the family. So I plan here other 3 activities. So the first one is an introduction, again, using the information they have been learning in the chapter. So here they have to be answering questions as ¿Cómo te llamas? ¿De dónde eres? So your name, your place, where do you live, with who, how is your house, your major, your subjects, your weekends, and everything. Then I also want them to ask questions to other students in Spanish. So for example, I'm giving them here some samples that they could use. So your favorite food, the sports that you like, what activities do you like, and so on. Here I created a rubric that I think I'm gonna be applying to many of the activities. So here because I think it's pretty clear for the students when they have something like that. So I'm grading them to present everything on time, so to post everything on time so they can interact with others. I'm also asking them to make a post, to write a post, and also to ask other students. Here I told them that they can go to the question forum, that they should go to the question forum and ask something. For example, I don't understand what that means, who could help me? So I plan to give them extra points for those activities, like 4 points in total. And that's why I thought that it would be interesting to use different interactions activities in each of the chapters on the models. So in model number 1, I also have a really short quiz to make sure that the students are understanding the verb ser, because it's gonna be very important in our course. So I'm gonna show you this quiz. At this time, I didn't know much about how to create a quiz, so I just took the easiest option. I think it's gonna also be helpful for the students to have this option at the very beginning, so that they don't have to be writing their own answers, but they just have to pick the correct one. Here in the model number 1, I created already an activity regarding the 3 C's. So at the end of the course, they have 2 opportunities. The first one is to do the final exam. The other one is to work in these cultural activities during the semester. So the first activity I'm proposing is a cultural activity. So step by step, they have to go on the internet, look for a country they would like to visit. Then they have to provide peers with information like location, traditions, food, economy, politics, whatever they find interesting. Everything has to be posted in English because I'm not grading the language skill, but the cultural and the community ones. So then they have to write a post, minimum 200 words. And then they are also comment their own post with 15 new words in Spanish. Those words can be related to food, culture, traditions, and so on. Then the last activity is to comment on the post of other peers and students and ask them questions about other countries. So the main point here is the students to realize that the Spanish language is spoken almost all over the world, and that we have a lot of variations, different accents, and cultural activities that are going to be covered in the Spanish classes. So here I also provided them with a link to make this activity a little bit easier. Here they can find all these countries where Spanish is spoken, and they have some links to websites like National Geographic or Lonely Planet, where they can find a lot of information about those countries and culture and traditions. So, as I told you, I plan to add one extra activities in all of the models so the students have enough opportunities to get those points that they need instead of taking the final exam. So now let's cover chapter 2. Here I created a quiz, a pretty long one, but I think it's really good for the students to review everything. So the first thing I always try to do is to tell the students what I want from them, so what they have to cover before taking this quiz, and the time they're going to have. And I also provide them with links from, for example, to dictionaries and also grammar links, because if they are having problems with some aspects, that may be helpful when taking this quiz. So here we have different question types. I try to use almost all of them. So multiple choice questions, yes, pick one option. I also have some questions where they have to write something, for example, conjugate the verbs. And I also have questions of true or false. And I try to use the numbers as well. So since we have been covering the numbers, I decided to create some funny activities with some operations. So I write everything in Spanish and they have to write the number at the end. So that's everything about the quiz. And another activity that I have in model number 2, that is everything about the university, is an interaction activity. So here they have chat activity. They have to go into this 2.2 activity. I explain them what they are going to be doing. So in this activity, I plan them to interact with peers in a real environment. So since they love social networks, I thought it would be interesting to use the chat as a tool to get to know other peers. So what they're going to be doing is asking 2 questions in Spanish, and then they have to reply to all the single questions that that the other students are asking. For this activity, I'm planning to create like groups of 4, no more than 5 students, so they can interact in a pretty welcoming and nice environment. So they practice with the Spanish language as if they were using social networks. So that's everything about my models. I'm planning to add, as I told you, some introductions in every single models to make everything easier. Then I also plan to add these extra activities also in model 2 and the next models that I'm going to be creating. And one thing I have done, and I think is interesting, is to add resources. So, for example, a Spanish dictionary that they can use whenever they